Welcome back to June 1st, 1998. It is Raw is War live from Chicago, Illinois. We're on the heels of the In Your House Over the Edge pay-per-view of the very first ever one. Stone Cold Steve Austin has retained the WWF Championship at the hand of Vince McMahon. We'll explain how. The chairman of the board is not very happy with a couple of different of his superstars, and he takes it out on them tonight. This is a fantastic episode. One of my favorites since we started doing the rewatch. You're not going to want to miss this. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Analyzing Attitude. Go ahead and light the pyro. Welcome into Analyzing Attitude, episode 33. And Mike, we've hit the middle of summer. It feels like it outside in reality. And back in 1998, it's June 1st, and we are coming off the heels of the Over the Edge pay-per-view, the very first one in 1998. Stone Cold Steve Austin retains over Dude Love. The Austin versus McMahon feud is really just starting to hit its fever pitch. I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler alert for my ranking for this episode, my grade. This has been my favorite episode of the rewatch so far.
Yeah, it was definitely a very packed full episode full of interesting storylines, some great action, and some furtherment of storylines. But I had very bad difficulties watching this episode because of the fun of Netflix not having all of Raw episodes on there. Had to underground it and just kept buffering on me. So my viewing experience wasn't as good as yours, I don't think.
There have been different channels that have done sort of what we're doing to some degree. Shout out to like Wrestling Bios that has just finished up Reliving the War. They just finished WrestleMania 17 on their channel. It's a great watch, fantastic way to kind of keep up to date with what happened in the Attitude Era, and those guys do a fantastic job kind of encapsulating what all happened. But like a lot of this stuff, to your point, like those guys and some of the rewatch guys, I know Cultaholic did some version of this, had the ability to have the WWE Network around and everything housed in one area, and doing this and taking a step down. Nostalgia has been a little more difficult without it, and having to piece these episodes together has not been the most efficient way to do this, but it's kind of added a little bit of a layer to the madness and fun for me as well. So yeah, I'm with you. I think there's some difficulties to trying to do this, and for anybody that's trying to watch along with us, if you want some places to find a couple of the episodes or piece and part this together and you want to watch before the episode comes out, DM us on Twitter or on our personal Twitters below, and we can get you where we're watching it at. And speaking of watching, Mike, the next pay-per-view is King of the Ring 1998, and you've been excited for this one for a while. I mean, I think episode number 2 we talked about after the Montreal Screwjob, you're like, I can't wait to fast forward all the way to King of the Ring 1998, just because so much is happening in the Federation at this time. I mean, there's so many characters that are going to debut between now and the pay-per-view itself, at the pay-per-view, and just some of the storylines are. And plus, listen, it's Mankind, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell. Get to break that down. I'm so excited about it,
man. And you forget about like the underrated little feud of Stone Cold and Kane with their first blood match. Well, which hasn't been announced yet. I apologize, but
spoiler alert, Mike. Come on,
it's 28 years ago, so I mean,
well, fair enough, because Undertaker versus Mankind, Hell in a Cell hasn't been announced yet either. But let's jump straight into the episode properly. It's June 1st, 1998. The episode of Raw. It's as I mentioned, coming off of the Over the Edge pay-per-view, and we've talked about it a ton, Mike. But one of the things that I think just gets, and I don't understand why, because he was such an important piece of the company, and obviously his relationship now with the company is severed, but the work that Mick Foley is doing on the microphone at this time, and the character work with the 3 characters that he's playing, 4 really when you throw in Mick Foley into the equation, is so good. And it's a scene that we've seen time and time again over the past couple months, but we open up Raw with Mick Foley not really in a gimmick and stuck between these personalities, obviously on screen. But he's in the ring, not as Cactus Jack, not as Mankind, not as Dude Love, but as Mick Foley. And he's apologizing to Vince McMahon. He's apologizing to us for not being able to get it done last night. And he said, last night was not a good night in Dudeville. I lost my teeth. My face got cracked, and I lost the WWF Championship. And he says, quite frankly, Stone Cold Steve Austin kicked my ass last night. And for a lot of the stuff that involves the rattlesnake or anytime he is seen or mentioned on screen, there's a massive pop. And there was quite a reaction to this, but it wasn't necessarily the, it's Austin reaction, right? And I think a lot of that is because Mick Foley's doing such a good job getting sympathy for himself. People aren't really, they'll boo Dude Love. They don't want to boo Mick Foley.
Yeah, it seems like the only time he's getting full on booze is when Vince is out there with him and they're in cahoots. But I agree. I was just thinking as I was watching the promo today, I mean, other than, damn, he has a welt on his face the size of Oklahoma.
Oof, yeah.
but you know, this, I know he does a lot of good things in '99, you know, with The Rock and Triple H through the end of his career. But, you know, this, for the Attitude Era, I think '98 is his most important year. And like, he's really shown what he can do on the mic. You know, don't even need to talk about what's going down here at King of the Ring. But this,
which makes what happened even more crazy. Like the fact that he's killing it like this and is arguably, and okay, maybe not. I was gonna say he's the most compelling character. That's clearly Stone Cold Steve Austin. But from like a character arc standpoint, it's Mick Foley, and it's not even close in my opinion.
Sure. Absolutely. He's got to be the most interesting. I mean,
without question.
So hardcore that he's doing this back and forth.
So interesting from a, you don't know what, like you kind of know, you know that there's going to be some sort of chaos with Steve Austin. You don't know what you're going to get out of Mick Foley. And he's just been so, like, honestly, like the Austin McMahon stuff has been fun. The Stooges stuff has been a blast. I've really enjoyed Undertaker and Kane. I'm enjoying Mick Foley's work here, maybe more than anything else other than out of this rewatch.
I can't argue with it. He's killing it, and the fun part about it is like he really does give a lot of props to Steve in this promo. And
he does such a good job of like not being able to identify who or what he is. It's fantastic.
Right. And it's like, if he's going to go this crazy on whoever and whatever on people he respects, like, oh man, he's just, like you said, he's the most interesting character they have right now. And, you know, this summer he is entangled in the big storylines going forward.
And that's crazy. This gets better, right?
Yes, like, I know.
It's literally we're at just the beginning of all the craziness. But Mick says that he's got some apologizing to do, and he calls out Vince McMahon, and he says that he's made some mistakes, and some of them have been listening to some of the people that he shouldn't. And he said that he realizes that he let Vince down last night, but due to what Stone Cold Steve Austin did to Mick's face, he's going to need a little bit of a break, and he hopes that he can become or still be the #1 contender when he comes back. And your point, Mike, he's got that big shrine on his face, and Vince comes back, and he wants me to. He goes, want me to accept your apology? You want me to accept an apology from someone who is a miserable human being, a failure of a WWF superstar? Get on your knees and beg for an apology. And Foley says, I'm sure this is a joke of some kind. My children are watching this at home, and I'm not going to humiliate myself in front of a WWE audience. Now, Vince asking people to humiliate themselves becomes a theme over the next 4 years. Hello, Trish Stratus. Yeah. But this is one of the few times that it doesn't actually happen when he asks for it to.
Right. And, you know, to your point, it gets pretty freaking crazy over the next 4 years when it comes to him asking or telling his employees to do certain things in the ring. But, you know, it adds a lot of layers to Vince, too, because you've seen him kind of crazy or become this boss, egocentrical, and wanting to take the title away from Stone Cold. Now he's really throwing his weight around, like, I'll bankrupt you. I'll take your job away.
What about your kids' college fund? The money for your parents, that house you just bought? Those are all things that he threatens Mick Foley with here, and he calls him a failure. And Mick says, I'm the failure? I think you failed to realize how tough of an SOB Stone Cold Steve Austin is. And in reference to asking if this was a joke, if asking Foley to get down on his knees and beg was a joke, Vince says the only joke here is you. And there's this like hush that comes over the building when he says that, because it's almost like this. We've seen them do the dancing in this fun-loving kind of relationship that they've had up until this point. And now it's getting really serious. And that's a credit both to Mick Foley and everything we're talking about, but also to Vince McMahon himself. And he tells Mick Foley that your services with the World Wrestling Federation are no longer required, and just leaves Mick in the ring, and that leaves the commentators to go back and forth. Did he just fire Mick Foley? And as of right now, that's the way it looks.
Man, and I can give a bunch of props to Vince on this show too, because he's kind of got 3 separate little storylines going on with 3 separate competitors, and his demeanor with each one of them is different. You can he's his arch nemesis to enemy to Stone Cold.
Nemesis is the word you're looking for.
Thank you,
Nemesis. Easy for me to say. There you
go. And he's like talking down to Foley because he's his lapdog that can't get the job done. And then you see how he talks to somebody else later on, and Vince is he's carrying a lot of the show. Like if you look at it.
Sure. And and like obviously to peel the curtain back a little bit in kayfabe, brother, you're in the middle of this war, and there's this guy that it's his company and he's the boss and he makes the most money. But when you look at some of the things he starts asking people to do, like get on their knees and beg and things like that, all in character. And I say that to say this, like, obviously this isn't me defending Vince McMahon. He's clearly made some mistakes in his life and he's currently going through some stuff because of those decisions. But I will say this, like every time he asked somebody to do something on screen, he got his come up. Him and his character got their comeuppance after that. I don't even think that's debatable at this point. But we'll get into all that and stuff as Analyzing Attitude rolls on. Back to the show. We get the LOD versus the DOA in a street fight. Listen, I told you before we started getting into everything that this is one of my favorite episodes that we've done so far, if not my favorite. And this would have been a reason to ruin it, but it serviced a purpose. Before the fight, they do a promo and Draws gets to talk and he tries to do the puke spiel again, and then the DOA come in and break that up. They're fighting. It gets down to Draws and chains with everybody else kind of laid out. And then not The Undertaker, but Mark Calloway shows up. The Undertaker is in full street clothes, lays both guys laying, and then starts going backstage and beating up hands behind the scene looking for Vince McMahon.
Kind of looked like Crush, honestly. Like
I thought it was for a second, if I'm being honest.
Or Chains, whatever his name is. Yeah, matching sweats, man. That was the thing.
Black sweater, black jeans. At least he's staying in the all black gimmick, I guess.
Sure. But I agree. That was the best usage of not LOD but DOA since we've been watching.
Without a doubt.
Let's just keep him in this little corner, have a little mini street fight, and then just be done after 2 minutes.
I'm fine with the stupid little gang war stuff as long as it serves a purpose.
Sure.
We talked to Adam Rogers, joined us for the rewatch of Over the Edge. We talked with Adam about the fact that Val Venus wasn't used last night, Edge wasn't used last night. The Oddities also debuted last Monday and they weren't used either. I feel like this would have been a good place for those guys. Like obviously they don't serve a bigger purpose, but like just not debuting them, not utilizing them at all was really weird to me because Val Venus comes out next and he's taking on Papi Chulo, who is actually Aguila, who was in the light heavyweight tournament, but he's out here without a mask on, so naturally we got to change his gimmick. He's Papi Chulo. This is every sexual innuendo you've ever seen rolled up into 5 minutes. Val Venus says there's not a gun in his pocket. He's just happy to see the ladies tonight. And as you see on your screen, the crowd loved it. They are really digging Val Venus here. And you can't really, this is peak 1999, 1990s, just humor. Like at one point, Val Venus gets Papi Chulo in a camel clutch, which is a joke of its own right, and starts grinding his hips into Papi Chulo, which he didn't seem to enjoy. But Val gets over here, hits the money shot, and gets the win. Here's the sign of the night. It says Val Venus penetrated Chicago, where the the show is located this evening. But listen, he's over like Rover at this time.
Oh, I was thinking as a god, these 90s chicks are just horny for Val Venus. And I mean no innuendo at all when I say this. That money shot move of his, it's very impressive in the air, but it's like that's got to take a toll on his knees.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
like he just like the money shot hurt his knees. But just the
something
way
about a fluffer joke.
Like he just always takes the brunt right on his knees, and it's like, oh my god, I don't know. But anyways,
he gets the win. Val Venus is still undefeated, but as he's exiting, the streetly dressed Mark Calloway appears in the ring, and there's this is that infamous Undertaker dressed in street clothes promo. And a lot of people, if you believe the rumors, the Bruce Pritchards of the world, that there was some legitimate backstage heat with the Undertaker and Vince McMahon at this time about a contract discussion. And the Undertaker allegedly was pushing really hard to change his character to the American Badass so he could kind of compete with what's going on the other channel. And according to the Undertaker in his 6 Feet Under podcast, also to kind of like show value in Mark Calloway versus the Undertaker. So if there ever needed to be a jump or a change, or he could leverage his character in a contract negotiation to show the real guy behind the gimmick. I don't think it was the best idea at this time, but obviously, you know, that guy's trying to get more money on his paycheck, and I can understand that. But he kind of talks about it as much in this promo, and he kind of tries to keep it, I'm the Undertaker and the creatures of the night, and come meet the Reaper, et cetera, here. But how, you know, he's been in the company for almost 10 years, and since he's arrived, Vince McMahon's asked him to be this Dragon Slayer, and he's taken on the Giant Gonzalez and King Kong Bundy and now Kane, and there's been other monsters that he's had to extinguish up until this point, but he calls out Vince McMahon. And Mike, the one thing that we've kind of talked about is that Vince doesn't have entrance music because we haven't got to the Royal Rumble yet.
Right.
But it almost feels better that he doesn't have that yet, because these moments feel a little bit more real and authentic.
Man, sometimes just the chorus of booze is the best heel entrance music ever. You know, Tommaso Ciampa was a good throwback when he did it in NXT. Like, man, like, there's no better than that. That is some good heel shit. You are over as a heel if that is your entrance music. And to this day, I still don't think Vince needed a change or actually have one. But, you know, who doesn't love No Chance in Hell?
Yeah, it's. I mean, listen, it was the perfect fit. But Vince McMahon comes out here, and Vince says, "After everything I've done for you, you damn near choke slammed me to hell last week." And one of the biggest pops from the crowd of the night when he says that. You said you hovered over me last night like a damn vulture. Why? To get my attention? You got it. You are loyal, and I appreciate you for it. But let's face it. What have you done for Vince McMahon lately? And then Vince asks, "You know what? Is it true? Is Paul Bear telling the truth when he says your mother's a whore?" And Vince backpedals out of the ring and goes, okay. You want to be the number one contender? You got it. All you got to do is beat your opponent tonight. And whoever wins is the number one contender between you and your brother Kane. And this is, listen, we've seen some high stakes. We've seen an Inferno match, obviously the WrestleMania match. We haven't seen stakes like this in this rivalry, and it just makes it bigger.
No, they haven't done anything where there's like something you can gain from winning other than, oh, I just beat the piss out of my own brother. But you know, and that's cool because we just did 2 pay-per-views with Foley, and not that those matches weren't good or anything, but got to keep it fresh. And you know, Taker or Kane, you know, it's 28 years ago. We know what's coming up the pipe for SummerSlam, but you know, it's a fresh change of pace for Steve Austin.
Yeah, and the thing is like, you have the Val Venus porn star character, you've got the Mick Foley split personality thing, you've got the Undertaker's character, you've got this red hot Stone Cold Steve Austin thing going on, and they're all intertwined, but you never like lose steam. Yes, there's the DOA LOD of it all right now, but like everybody feels important to a degree on this card. It's really impressive.
Absolutely, and it's so fun to like watch it unfold because we're so close to seeing it, like pretty much top to bottom. You can't miss any segment. As cringy as some of them might be, you can't miss them.
Fair enough. It is the King of the Ring coming up, as we've mentioned, and we get the King of the Ring bracket for the first time. The King of the Ring qualifiers are going to start tonight. This bracket is really, really interesting for a lot of reasons. This is the first time Kama's name has officially been changed to the Godfather, and it's listed on the bracket. He's the very top slot as the Godfather. We get Rock versus Vader, which is a stylistic matchup that I think could be really fun. But there's also a chance that you get Steve Blackman and Jeff Jarrett in round 2. But we could also get Farouk versus The Rock in round 3, and you can also get Ken Shamrock versus Dan Severn in a championship or in a King of the Ring championship match. Also, Triple H versus X-Pac will be next week in the first round. This is really interesting to me.
Yeah, I used to love the King of the Ring tournaments. Like,
I did too.
They didn't give a piss how the bracket looked. It does feel like they randomly did it, like actually randomly did it. Like, and that was the fun of it all. And the King of the Ring pay-per-view, like I know they finally brought it back in 2024 for one off. They still do the King of the Ring, but
Right.
the namesake itself. But it was a lot of fun, man. And what was and sorry, was it Survivor Series this year? We get the one night tournament.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know what I never really understood? Like Money in the Bank has taken off, and rightfully so. But I never understood why you just didn't give the King of the Ring the stipulation, the contract, whatever, of just getting the automatic championship match. Like I never understood that. Like, just if you're gonna do it, make it count for something.
Right. Like the Money in the Bank one that's fine. It's random. They can do it whenever they want. But you have the Royal Rumble for Mania. King of the Ring for SummerSlam was perfect. I think perfect. And they've kind of started doing that with like the Gunthers and Codys the past couple years. But I don't know why they weren't doing that to begin with, because that it's just the fun stakes, and you won a big ass tournament and you should be awarded the top spot. But I digress.
Yeah, I agree. But we get the first matchup. It's Steve Blackman versus Mark Marrow. And for anybody that didn't watch the Over the Edge rewatch with us, or you're just wondering what happened and didn't get a chance to rewatch the pay-per-view, Mark Marrow beat Sable last night, so now she has to stay at home. So Marrow comes out here and says she's barefoot in the kitchen where she belongs. His words, not mine. But he has somebody new with him, and she's black and she's beautiful, and it's Jacqueline. And it's interesting for a couple of reasons. It's a coup for WWE, because the last time we saw Jacqueline, she was on WCW beating up the Disco Inferno. So it's really interesting that we get another flip from the other channel, but it's also a it's a feather in the cap for the WWE when they haven't really had too many of those.
Right. I mean, everyone really thinks that like X-Pac or Big Show or Jericho was like one of the first ones that jump over. Maybe big namesake, but you forget about these ones like Jacqueline, and I've actually already forgot about some of the other ones that have came back from WCW. But
yeah, sure. And obviously Brian Adams, we just joked about, Crush just made the jump to the other channel. But honestly, at this time, Jacqueline feels like a bigger deal than that.
Oh man, and she's giving it all, like just going right into this character. And I did a little research on her today. Did you know, under her Wikipedia, she's had 13 different ring names?
Yeah, and she's been in several different promotions. I mean, obviously, like her work shows later in the year when she joins PMS and like she stops being a valet. Yeah. But she could go, man. Like she was a great worker.
Yeah, and like during this time, and I remember I was like, who was the women back then? It was Sable, Jacqueline,
Sunny. I mean, really, she's the third. She's the third girl on the screen right now.
Right. Yeah.
And Terry Runnels has been missing because of the relationship issues with her and her real life husband Dustin. And you know what? That's the other thing is, like,
speaking of PMS.
Yeah, but that's the other thing is, like, people that haven't been around. Goldust is now working for the WWF for free for 30 days. He's missed 2 consecutive shows. So, yeah, that's just one more thing missing from this episode. But this is a hard hitting match back and forth. Some hard hitting kicks from Blackman. Jackie gets Marrow's foot up on the rope on a pin, and Marrow gets the upper hand and hits a Death Valley driver, a really good looking shooting star press in the air, and he clearly lands on his knees and misses the whole thing, but gets the win and almost clean here. I thought this was a really interesting decision.
I really did like he pretty much called to the crowd like, hey, I'm gonna nut shot this guy, which is pretty good. I like that he's leaning into it. The association with Jackie is fresh for Marrow, because God, we were done to death with him and Sable. I know we're not completely out of the woods yet with that, but it's a different dynamic there with Jackie. And I was thinking, when a superstar gets a new manager or valet and they get like the big win when they get the valet, it's more of like putting the valet over, not the actual guy.
100%.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it did what it needed to do. Kind of sucks that Blackman ate a loss 2 nights in a row, but do what you gotta do.
And as I mentioned a minute ago, that also takes away from the fact that it could have been Jeff Jarrett versus Steve Blackman in the second round as well. And then this guy Steve Blackman had an undefeated streak for a while, and now he hasn't had a win in almost a month.
Yeah, I feel like if these new guys just don't catch fire in Vince's eyes, he just all right, lose, 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 lose.
Yeah. But that's the thing, man. Steve Blackman's still getting really big pops here.
Yeah, Vince is a weird cat, man.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on though, we get the DX versus Nation 6-man tag, and that's been promised for a while. And this I don't did this get announced? Like there isn't a it's a elimination match. Did they announce this was coming up on the last night or anything? Because I don't remember this being talked about.
No, not at all. And even the stipulation, the JR said like right before the bell rang.
yeah. Fair enough. So it is an elimination match, and some of these eliminations come really, really quick. As D'Lo Brown gets eliminated in the first minute and a half, and it just kind of a blink and you miss it elimination. But then the Road Dogg in a clean finish gets rock bottomed by the Rock, and he's out. So like we're not wasting any time knocking guys out here.
I won't lie to you. This is where I had the biggest issues with my viewing and the buffering with the site. I caught the very beginning, saw no eliminations. When I finally got it to load up, I got to the last 3 people in the ring, which was
we'll get there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happens from there because and I skipped a step because actually at the beginning of this match, Sergeant Slaughter comes down and tells China and X-Pac they have to go to the back, and he tells Mark Henry and the Godfather they got to go to the back. But you get some hot tags in and out. D'Lo gets eliminated. Rock, who by the way was power drive last night on a steel stage, got power drive on a steel chair and took 2 more power drivers out of that. Just rock bottoms the Road Dogg and eliminates him out of nowhere. Billy Gunn goes for a splash and hits his head on the ring post. Owen Hart hits a spinning heel kick and eliminates Billy Gunn. So now we get Triple H versus the Rock and Owen on the other side. And then for no reason whatsoever, out of nowhere, China's just allowed to come back down to ringside. What are the rules here? Commissioner Slaughter can kick you out at the beginning, but you're just free and range to walk back down to the ring?
I guess.
Yeah, that made no sense to me.
I did not like this match, like at all. Like the decisions and everything. We'll get to it. I'll say my thoughts when this is over here.
Yeah, so it's China at ringside, Hunter on one side, and Owen on the Rock on the other. And keep in mind, the Rock is the Intercontinental Champion, and the Rock is the Intercontinental Champion, and Triple H is the European Champion here. But we get this, we get the finish where Triple H pins the Rock, and he and Owen are squaring off, and Owen hits the Enziguri, which has kind of been his de facto finish at different times of his career. Ken Shamrock jumps out of the crowd and attacks Owen Hart, and the Nation broke Ken Shamrock's ankle a month and a half ago. They tried to do the same thing to Dan Severn last week. The Nation run down and try to save Owen. Dan Severn runs down. There's a big pull apart. There's a little bit of a stare off and almost like a mutual respect type thing. But they announced the Nation as the winners because of the interference. And then Triple H attacks Ken Shamrock from behind. So there's just a ton going on here.
Like I understand certain points where they were going for. Like I understand why Owen needed to be one. I know why he needed to be there at the end. I don't know why we had to eliminate the Rock if we were going to have a clean finish anyway.
I don't know why you had to eliminate anybody at this point.
That's fair, even fair because the Outlaws have been hot as crap too. So
and you killed them off real quick. Like
D'Lo was fine.
Yeah, fair enough. But you've got to the point where like you've got so many of these stars that you've got to like somebody's got to lose, right? Like eventually you got to have losers, and that's kind of the bad side of being the bookers. You got to make the decisions,
right?
But you've also got to try to protect them in some way. And like how quickly they beat the Road Dogg after they've just kind of killed everybody the last couple of months was really surprising to me.
Right, and like I'm glad you mentioned it because I really hated that Rock was basically no selling 3 pile drivers, one of which being
five pile drivers.
Five.
The one on the stage 2 weeks, the one on the stage last week, the one on the chair last night, and the 2 and the 3 in the main event.
And like they couldn't even had that play into his
he
like
wasn't
elimination.
selling it. Wasn't selling it all. It was like half the storyline of the pay-per-view last night.
Man, I gotta tell you, I have not been super like impressed with my memory of DX because it just hasn't like hit like I thought it would so far.
Yeah.
Like with my excitement for it because I mean there's been good things, but like these segments and matches they've been in have just been kind of trash.
Yeah, listen, I've always been of the volition that I think X-Pac was a little bit overrated, and him being is talked about as important as he was in the NWO and as important as he was in DX was a little always overblown. No offense, Sean Waltman, if you watch this, I was never like the let's make a little noise. Like, it just never did anything for me, if I'm being honest.
Fair enough.
We go backstage, and the Undertaker's sitting on a case, thinking deeply about his life and the decisions he's made, or something, talking to the creatures of the night. And then we see Vince McMahon backstage talking to Kane in the. I don't know how else to describe it.
Sorry, that was perfect.
He looks like he's reading Shakespeare. Think about it that way.
It sounded hilarious, but it's like, it's spot on.
Yeah. And then we see Kane and Vince McMahon speaking backstage with Paul Bearer, and this is the first time these two characters have really been on screen together. And they shake hands, and Vince McMahon says, or sorry, Jim Ross says, did Kane just make a deal with the devil, or did Vince McMahon, obviously play on words there? We get back, and Tennessee Lee is in the ring. And this is the most head-scratching part of this episode. Like, there's a bad part of this episode. It's this part to me, because Tennessee Lee's in the ring, and he does his introduction of Jeff Jarrett and asks, ain't he great? He's the king of country music, as a play on the King of the Ring, because this is the King of the Ring qualifying match, as he's about to take on Farouk, as you saw in the bracket earlier in the show. But they introduce Southern Justice here. Now, this is confusing for a lot of different reasons, and the problems at the end of this match we'll definitely get into. But they're talking about Southern Justice, who's the Godwins, as if this is a debut for them. But 6 weeks ago, this same tag team, dressed in the same outfits, came out and were referred to as Southern Justice by the Outlaws, and then we haven't seen them again until then. Let's add another layer to that. We just took Jeff Jarrett out of a stable in the NWA and made him a singles guy to now put Tennessee Lee and another tag team with him. Is this not the same exact thing we just stopped from doing?
Is this attempt 3 or 4 for Jeff since we've been starting this podcast? Since we started this podcast,
Let's see. There was the very first episode. He came back as the Aztec Warrior thing. The NWA 4. This is 4. Yeah, I mean, essentially, he's just been repackaged. And listen, he's clearly a talented guy. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. It just, what is he supposed to be?
Right.
Like, is he a country music star? Is he the NWA champion? Is he Tennessee Lee's bus buddy? Is he the leader of Southern Justice now? All that to say this. He's taking on Farouk here. And we have a bunch of Southern white gentlemen whose tag team's name is Southern Justice. And I'm just going to skip ahead. I can't do this any justice, man. Let's skip ahead to the end.
You can't do it in any Southern Justice. Yeah.
I definitely can't do that. They beat a black man with a belt, and their name is Southern Justice. You can't, like, I understand it's 2026 and times are different, but, like, read the room, guys. Like, this is just such a bad idea on so many levels.
Oh, I mean, it gets worse with Vince. Like, he flat out says a slur, like, years later on air. But I mean,
like, I want you to take what you just said and think about that. Think about everything we just said about this match. Think about everything we said about this character, the Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon character, leading up to this point. They're trying to make him not have any redeeming qualities. He's the devil himself. He's making a deal with a demon. He's this bad person, and you should hate him.
Yep.
But what happens next is they air a video about how the WWF and the McMahon family have always given to charity and donated to causes like the Boys and Girls Club of America. And as long as they are the number 1 wrestling promotion in the world, they will continue to give to charity. No, I'm not kidding. This is the actual order these things happened in.
I don't think it's coincidental.
You can't make this up. Never mind, we just did a bunch of racist crap. We give to charity.
Do you think they just...
That's basically what they said.
Do you think they just filmed that a long time ago and was like, let's just put that on in case?
Like, I was waiting for, like, the glass shattering and this is the attitude era, or, like, some, like, hook at the end of this to, like, be like, he was this good person. Now he's a piece of shit. No, it's just, like, is legitimate. Look how great
he's still a good person.
Like, here's the other thing. Like, think about this. The guy produces the show.
Yep.
So not only does he do all this other stuff that we're reviewing here, he also said, hey, make sure you include that 60-second package talking about how great I am. and how much money I give to charity. Thanks. By the way, I asked some guy to beg for his job on his knees the first 5 minutes of the show tonight. What are we doing here? And then naturally next, it's Taka Michinoku versus Funaki in a 2-minute, 36-second bout.
Fun.
And they stole the show, folks.
Hell yeah.
They were awesome. Listen, it started off, they hot-shotted it because you have to, because the time constraint. Taka dives off his signature dive to the outside. Funaki hits the coolest reverse I've ever seen of a tornado DDT. Turned a tornado DDT into a front, what's the word I'm looking for? Atomic drop. Yeah, atomic drop. But he crotched Taka in doing it. Great looking reversal here. This episode, this show, or this match can only be pieced together online, so we don't really have any clips of it. But they were fantastic, man. They were hitting the ropes and high flying moves. They included Dick Togo and Bradshaw, who were on the outside for the respective partners. This was you could have done more in 2 minutes 36 seconds.
Man, Taka Michinoku is the definition of maximize your minutes, because when he
100% agree with that.
You may not know who he's fighting or be into the characters, but every match he's in is stellar. And to Funaki's credit, there's a reason why those two are the last two remaining members of Kaientai when everything's said and done, because they're just very good chemistry with each other.
Yeah, and listen, I agree with that sentiment, but I mean, it's not like anytime they're in the ring with anybody else, it's a snooze fest.
True,
I mean, they've been pretty good.
Very true, very true.
Moving on, as one does past the Kaientai match, we get a random Paul Bearer promo after this, and lately it just kind of seems like they're doing this thing where they just have time to fill, so they're throwing people out there. I mean, you didn't really need Paul Bearer to talk for Kane here. He talks about he's going to destroy the Undertaker and how he's going to do this and how he's always done that and he's been better than the Undertaker this. Kane hasn't beaten the Undertaker yet. Like, not once. It hasn't happened yet. And everybody just keeps talking about this threat to the Undertaker and how Kane has had the upper hand and gotten this advantage on him. He's literally 0 for 2.
That's why it's kind of like, I mean, it makes sense with Vince being, the heel asshole, and especially after, the heated confrontation with him and Undertaker. But it's like, Undertaker's beaten him twice. Why isn't he just the number one contender?
Right. Yeah. There's nothing left to prove. What we get next has been something that I've really enjoyed about this rewatch that I definitely didn't in 1998 because I was only 10 years old. But we get Mark Henry versus Terry Funk next. And this is clear, like, knowing what I know now, this is clearly let's get this young, inexperienced guy. And Vince McMahon comes out before this match and it's like, I'm not going to miss this. Kane versus The Undertaker. My question is, in real life, did Vince McMahon forget that there was a match before that happening here? Because he was out a little bit early here. But you get Terry Funk, the seasoned veteran who's 56, versus a young and up-and-coming Mark Henry. And Vince kind of goes back into his early 90s, what a maneuver, actual commentator guy moment, where he talks about the future and how bright it is for Mark Henry. And obviously that ends up being the case. But they've invested a lot of money in Mark Henry up until this point, not really gotten a lot out of him because of how green he's been.
And
wanting to kill Shawn Michaels.
That's true. I was so impressed with. I mean, it shouldn't be because it's Terry Funk, but what he got. What kind of match he had with Mark here, because man, it was hard hitting. But Terry, the constant professional he is, I didn't see Mark really struggle at all. It feels like
if you know what you're looking for, you could see the moments where Terry kind of has to slow him down and walk him through things. But it wasn't clunky, and it wasn't sloppy outside of the Acai moonsault on the outside, where Terry Funk at the age of 56 decides to do a backflip off the middle rope, and
that hurt my hip.
And Mark Henry misses him, and he legitimately crashes into the metal barricade. And you could tell it left a mark. No pun intended there. But Mark Henry hits and I thought I keep saying the things that have impressed me, like. You heard all these stories about Terry Funk, and I saw his ECW run, and he was really good. But like the fact that he's this good at this age, man, I don't know if he gets enough credit. I think he's definitely better than Dory Funk Jr., who gets a ton of credit, but it just doesn't really feel like that Terry ever gets his due.
No, I mean, I know within the industry, like by the other wrestlers, there's nothing but love and praise for him. But like the fans.
So.
The fans seem to like it. Just doesn't seem like there's that much love that he rightly deserves. Because
man, that match him and Mick had 3 weeks ago was incredible.
Oh yeah,
incredible. But Mark Henry gets over here and gets 3 big splashes. And I thought it was really interesting that like Terry Funk is an old school guy, like motion that he was trying to kick out. And a lot of times like Hogan gets flack for kicking out at like 3 3/4 to try to protect himself. But I think that was more of a selling of how big Mark Henry is.
Right.
Like I don't think it was trying to like Terry Funk was trying to kick out.
And that's why you can definitely tell Terry was Mick Foley's mentor, because that became a big staple in Foley's kickouts too.
For sure.
Or that little toe kick at 3, you know, just to try to show that you still had a little fight, but just not enough.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
But Mark Henry moves on to the next round. So we get Mark Merrow versus Jeff Jarrett in the second round of the King of the Ring tournament. And then we get Mark Henry versus either Shamrock or the Godfather, which we'll get next week. But it's main event time. And Vince McMahon is sitting at the commentary desk waiting for Kane and The Undertaker. But the glass shatters. And here comes Stone Cold Steve Austin to join on commentary. He grabs the mic and says, Vince, if you love me, give me a hell yeah. And Austin sits down and the lights go out and Kane comes out. And here comes Vince says, here comes a man who can dominate the WWF and become the WWF champion. And Austin says, Vince, you don't care if it's Kane, if it's The Undertaker. You don't care who it is, as long as it's somebody that can take the WWF championship off of me. And Vince says, you're damn right. But to say I don't care about my WWF superstars is underneath me. That's not what Austin said at all. But okay, Vince, I mean, glad we're trying to save face on the get on your knees and beg for your job thing.
Yeah.
But the
Southern Justice, Vince.
Yeah. The Undertaker comes here, Mike. I thought one of the things that's interesting, it's pretty widely known that The Undertaker goes into Hell in a Cell at King of the Ring with a broken ankle. And it was allegedly due to an injury he suffers in a few weeks during a promo with he and Paul Bear. He's noticeably limping here. So I'm kind of wondering if he didn't already aggravate this ankle. And because there's a couple times now he really struggles to get around the ring.
Yeah, I've been trying to pinpoint it, or I told myself to try to pinpoint it between now and King of the Ring, but I did see that he did seem either that or sluggish or just gimping around. Maybe he is.
There's a noticeable limp. I'm kind of wondering if it happened in the outside brawl with LOD and DOA before this and like aggravate it. So in a couple weeks, spoiler if you don't know what happens, but the Undertaker goes to Paul Bear's home, and that's allegedly where the ankle injury happens. But I mean, he's clearly struggling to get around in this match. He chokeslams Kane. Kane no-sells it. Taker hits a Russian leg slip and a leg drop and goes for a 3 count. Like, I don't know why the crowd thought the Undertaker was actually going to win this match on this leg drop by the reaction they have. Because of how many times the Undertaker's won on a leg drop in his career, apparently. But he kicks out and gets up. Kane gets the upper hand, goes for a tombstone, but Taker counters it, hits a tombstone of his own, but there was a ref bump before this, no official, and Austin says, you're the owner of the damn company, get in the ring, count it, Vince. But then Mankind appears, not Mick Foley. This is Mankind, and I think this is really interesting because he's wearing the color red here, and clearly he's got the relationship previously with Paul Bear, but he's almost picking a side here, and I think it's interesting that it's Mankind, not Mick Foley, doing this.
Yeah, I was wondering, it didn't really, but that, as I said earlier in the show, that the big welt on Foley's face.
Yeah,
I didn't know if that was going to play into it, because obviously he switches to Mankind for Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what happened to the mask irritated because it definitely didn't look good.
No, but I didn't know if that was going to play into it, and like I don't know. Mankind's the back character you haven't really heard that much of since JR's sit down interview with him. So
yeah.
But it's a good one because Cactus Jack doesn't really have any friends besides Chainsaw Charlie. Yeah. So
yeah, not even Terry Funk, just Chainsaw Charlie.
And dude loves to are not hardcore enough for what's about to come down.
Yeah, and that's interesting because one of the things I missed earlier in the Vince promo is after he tells Mick Foley's services no longer needed, Dude Loves music hits, and Vince does the Dude Love dancing stuff to poke at Foley. So he comes out here as Mankind, and he distracts the Undertaker, gets the mandible claw, but Taker fights him off, and he chokeslams Kane, and then he turns around, and then Mick's back up on the apron again. Taker fights him off again, turns around. Kane hits the tombstone. Referee Jack Doan comes to 1, 2, 3. Kane is the number 1 contender Austin is at the commentator's desk, and Austin goes, "Did you enjoy that?" And they cut over to Vince McMahon. He's smiling ear to ear, and he starts crawling across the desk at Steve, and is like, he says, "Not as much as I'm going to enjoy him beating your ass at King of the Ring." And that's what made this work, is these two hating each other was so believable, which is incredible when you think about how closely they were working together to make this happen.
Man, I wonder how much like throat lozenges Vince had to take after all of his promos, especially
screaming.
He's getting so into him.
Ruthless.
He's gonna beat your ass. He's gonna take that title. But Vince, Vince too. But we got Taker, Foley, Austin, Kane. These four guys pretty much run our
very
summer.
Intertwined.
Yeah. They, there are main events seen through the summer and a little bit into the pretty much till Survivor Series, and we get another spoiler alert. We get another main eventer around that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but we're off to the races, man. I'm so excited. We got King of the Ring, and then after that, SummerSlam.
Mankind, before the show goes to black, Mankind, Paul Bear, and Kane are leaving, and Jim Ross is asking, has Mankind rejoined Paul Bear? And then he runs back down to ringside, and him and Taker fight as the screen fades to black. And the last thing we hear is Jim Ross say, "They're gonna have to settle this fight in hell." A little bit of a dangling carrot there for the audience to come back to, but that finishes June 1st of 1998. And honestly, Mike, like, it's pretty obvious what I'm going to give this episode, but this is the stuff that I remember from the Attitude Era. Like, this feels like the full throttle, we're full go into the Attitude Era that gets fawned over and talked about so fairly.
Yes, at this time I was definitely watching. I might have still been a little bit more into WCW. I'm not gonna lie, a 7-year-old kid, I was pretty into Goldberg.
Yeah,
and
we won't hold that against you.
Within the 6 months period here, that'll fade because the infamous night with Foley and Rock on my birthday, January 4th, is the same day as Finger Poke of Doom, and that's when I became all WWF.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I was going to tell you this off camera, but really excited to announce that the channel is expanding. We're going to have a sister show, as you saw on the rewatch of the Over the Edge pay-per-view. Adam Rogers is actually going to join full-time with us here on the channel, but start a sister show. He's going to start reviewing. He's going to have a co-host. He's working on who that's going to be. They're going to start reviewing WCW from the Bash at the Beach 1996. This will be the first pay-per-view they review, and then rewatch the Attitude Era, and we'll do crossover shows and things like that too. So we're really excited to announce that. Really excited for Adam and those guys to get that podcast start. To be determined is the name of the podcast right now, because we're not sure what it's going to be, but really excited for that. And obviously there'll be some crossover opportunities and just to talk about some more wrestling of the Attitude Era. So, Mike, before we get out of here, let's go ahead and grade June 1st, 1998. How did you grade this episode?
It had the factors of buffering and whatnot. So,
Sure.
It wasn't a big fan of the DX Nation stuff. I went with B+. Overall, very good show. A lot of forward moving on the main event stories. I'm
going to give it an A. And I would probably give it an A+ if there wasn't the Southern Justice Farouk of it all.
Sure.
So I'm gonna just give it an A. But outside of that, this has been my favorite episode to rewatch. I'm really excited for King of the Ring. I'm excited for everything else. I'm excited for the Hell in a Cell match specifically because we get to talk about it. But that pay-per-view is going to be so good. Like, the fact that you get Kane versus Austin after that match, I mean, good luck to those guys topping that. I don't even remember. I know what happens. I don't remember anything about that match. But it'll be really interesting to see how the rest of that pay-per-view holds up with that obviously legendary and iconic moment of Foley and Taker in the cell.
Foley, Taker, just a spoiler alert, that is the meat and potatoes of King of the Ring.
Yeah, it's probably the meat and potatoes of the entire Attitude Era rewatch.
Absolutely.
Hey, this has been Analyzing Attitude. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us an oh hell yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
Down in the comments below. That's the good Dr. Mike Sweeney. I've been Jimmy Allen. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. That was just a glimpse into what Analyzing Attitude has to offer. If you liked what you saw here, here's what we suggest next for you. And
if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Like and subscribe.